Something strange happens after someone hurts you. They disappear for a while, maybe weeks, maybe months, and then suddenly they reappear like nothing ever happened. A casual message, a meme, a quick, "Hey, how have you been?" The same normal tone they used before everything fell apart, and you're left standing there confused, wondering if you somehow imagined the entire thing. You didn't. What you experienced was real. The hurt was real. The conversation you had, the moment you called them out, the betrayal you felt. None of that disappeared just because they decided to act like it did. But understanding why people do this can change the way you carry that experience moving forward. The truth is, people who hurt others and then behave casually afterward aren't usually suffering from some mysterious memory loss. In fact, psychology and neuroscience suggest the opposite. Emotional events, especially conflict, betrayal, and confrontation, are actually remembered more strongly, not less. Your brain doesn't casually forget those moments. Neither does theirs. They remember what you said. They remember the expression on your face. They remember the moment things shifted between you. But remembering something and being willing to face what it means are two very different things. Many people develop powerful psychological defense systems that allow them to keep the memory while stripping away its emotional consequences. They store the event in a mental category that says, "It happened, but it doesn't count." This is where a concept called moral disengagement comes in. Moral disengagement is essentially the mind's way of protecting a person's self-image. Most people see themselves as fundamentally good, fair, and reasonable. When they do something that contradicts that identity, like hurting someone who trusted them, it creates a psychological conflict. So the mind performs a series of quiet adjustments. First, the event gets minimized. It wasn't that serious. Then circumstances get blamed. I was under a lot of stress. Finally, the narrative flips. Actually, I was the one who suffered in that situation. By the time the memory resurfaces, it has been reshaped so completely that it barely resembles the original event. And once that process is complete, acting casual becomes easy. Because in their internal version of the story, nothing truly terrible happened. Another important piece of this puzzle is emotional avoidance. Avoidance doesn't always look like running away. Sometimes it looks like cheerful normalcy. A person might treat you exactly the same as before the conflict, because acknowledging the damage would require confronting their role in causing it. For people who struggle with emotional accountability, that kind of confrontation feels unbearable. Sitting in discomfort is a skill. It's emotional weightlifting. And some people have simply never developed that muscle. The moment a situation becomes painful or awkward, their mind searches for the fastest exit. If this moved you, comment 9 right now. If it didn't, comment 0. Your voice matters. Take 1 second and share it. Sometimes that exit is physical, leaving the room, blocking someone, changing jobs. Other times, the exit is psychological. They decide, consciously or not, that the problem simply doesn't exist. Cognitive dissonance research shows that when someone's behavior clashes with their self-image, they rarely change their behavior. Instead, they change their interpretation of what happened. The mind rewrites the memory until it aligns with the story they want to believe about themselves. So the friend who stopped responding after years of closeness may genuinely remember it as, "We just drifted apart." The colleague who betrayed you may remember it as a misunderstanding. Their brain isn't lying in the traditional sense. It's protecting the identity they've built around being a good person. There's another layer to this dynamic as well. Sometimes people aren't just protecting themselves from guilt. They're also protecting their social image. Acknowledging harm requires admitting that there's something to repair. And for someone who has built their identity around being easygoing, low drama, or universally likable, that admission threatens the entire persona. So instead of addressing the issue, they maintain normal behavior. They continue posting online. They continue joking in group settings. They continue interacting casually. And every normal interaction sends a quiet signal to everyone watching. See? Everything is fine. If anyone questions that narrative, it becomes easy to frame them as dramatic or overly sensitive. And this is where things start affecting you. When someone repeatedly acts like nothing happened, your brain begins questioning its own perception. Did I misunderstand? Am I overreacting? Maybe it wasn't that serious. This dynamic can destabilize a person's sense of reality because humans are social creatures. We rely on shared understanding to confirm our experiences. When someone confidently denies the emotional significance of an event you experienced deeply, your mind starts searching for an explanation. And sometimes it lands in the wrong place: self-doubt. But here's an important truth. Their refusal to acknowledge what happened doesn't erase the reality of what you experienced. Their silence doesn't invalidate your memory. Their casual behavior doesn't mean the damage wasn't real. In fact, the ability to face uncomfortable truths about our own actions is one of the most important markers of emotional maturity. And not everyone develops that ability. People who avoid accountability often build environments that support their version of reality. They gravitate towards social circles where difficult conversations are rare, and emotional discomfort is quickly dismissed. This allows their narrative to remain intact. Meanwhile, you may feel like you're carrying the emotional weight of the situation alone. That imbalance, one person processing everything while the other pretends nothing happened, creates a very specific type of exhaustion. But here's something that often goes unseen. Avoidance has a cost. Research on emotional suppression shows that people who consistently avoid confronting their actions experience higher levels of anxiety, relationship instability, and long-term stress. The calm exterior they present isn't necessarily genuine peace. It's a carefully maintained performance. Imagine living in a house where one room contains every mistake you've made, but you refuse to open the door. The room doesn't disappear. It just becomes a place you avoid. And over time, the effort required to keep that door closed grows heavier. Understanding this doesn't mean excusing the behavior. It simply means recognizing that their emotional defenses are about protecting themselves, not about evaluating the truth of what happened. So what does this mean for you? First, it means accepting something difficult. You may never receive the closure you hoped for. There may be no apology, no acknowledgement, no moment where they sit down and admit their role. That absence can feel like a loss in itself. And it's okay to grieve that. But eventually, the path forward shifts from seeking their validation to giving yourself what they won't give you. You already know what happened. You lived it. Your memory doesn't require their confirmation to be real. Your emotional response doesn't need their agreement to be valid. And when someone consistently refuses to face the impact of their actions, that behavior tells you something important about their current capacity for accountability. It shows you the level of emotional maturity they are operating at right now. That information matters. Not because it defines their worth as a human being, but because it tells you whether they can participate in the kind of relationship you need. Some people eventually grow. They revisit old situations years later and take responsibility in ways they couldn't before. But growth can't be forced. You can't explain your pain so perfectly that someone suddenly becomes ready to confront their own behavior. What you can do is protect your own clarity. You can stop trying to convince someone to see what they've chosen not to see. You can stop rewriting your own memory to match theirs. And you can move forward with the understanding that accountability, honesty, and emotional repair are qualities you deserve in the relationships you build. Recognizing that someone can't meet you there isn't failure, it's clarity. So if you've ever found yourself lying awake at night replaying the moment someone hurt you while they seem to move on without a second thought, remember this. Your reaction doesn't mean you're weak, dramatic, or holding on to the past too tightly. It means you're someone who takes honesty, trust, and emotional responsibility seriously. And in a world where many people avoid difficult conversations or uncomfortable truths, That kind of integrity can sometimes feel lonely. But the ability to face reality, even when it's painful, is actually a strength. It means you're capable of growth, reflection, and genuine connection. While others may protect themselves by rewriting the past or pretending nothing happened, you're doing something harder and far more meaningful. You're processing the truth, learning from it, and refusing to ignore the impact that actions have on people. That is how real healing begins. Over time, that clarity will guide you toward relationships that are healthier and more honest. The people who belong in your life won't make you question your memory, minimize your feelings, or act like your pain never existed. They'll be the ones who can sit with uncomfortable conversations, take accountability when they make mistakes, and work with you to repair what's broken. Those are the connections that actually last. If this message resonated with you, like the video, share it with someone who may need it, and subscribe for more psychology insights.